All right, we're live. So, welcome to another Run Wild with Us. Ask Us Anything. I am Lisa Kastner. I am the founder and executive editor of Running Wild and RIZE Presses. And I am here with you once a week on Thursdays, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, along with some of our phenomenal editors. And we're basically here to answer any kind of questions that you may have. It can be publishing, it can be creative writing, it could be, I don't know, it can be whatever you want. So all you have to do is to get us to answer those phenomenal questions, just go ahead and pop those questions into the comments section of whatever venue you may be joining us. And basically, I'll repeat said question and then we'll take that time to respond. So, with that, I want to thank everybody who's joining us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Typically, either Ben White or Peter Wright, two of our acquisition editors, would join us. They might be a little bit late. This we are hitting the holiday season now, so that wouldn't be surprising. But in the meantime, until we have a couple of questions coming forward, and I'll cover some basic topics that typically come forward when during our sessions. So we actually are currently in the middle of a acceptance period. So you may be one of the amazing authors whom I'm chatting with in email or through Submittable and talking about moving forward with publishing your amazing work, and which is super, super exciting. Uh, One thing that we've started getting a lot of questions on is around actual publication date and around what does publicity look like. So I will take this opportunity to cover some of that. And again, feel free to go ahead and throw some questions into the comments section, and I'll be more than happy to repeat the question, and then I'll respond to it. So, publication date. We are actually with a major distributor, IPG, and because we're with IPG, that means you, the phenomenal author, you have the benefit of IPG's Salesforce. So IPG actually comes to all of the public presses that they distribute and lets them know deadlines to actually have titles. So that's when we submit a title, it's the back jacket copy, it's everything, it's the cover design, or it's the cover, and so on. So submit all of that to them, and by a specific date. And when that happens, that's when it's then recorded as part of being in that catalog for that period of time and for that specific date. Now, why this is a thing. So, this is the thing because we have to submit those titles. It's typically 9 to 12 months prior to the actual publication date. And then what that means is that you, again, you, the phenomenal author with your amazing story, you have the benefit of that sales team to bring forward your story to retailers. So we've had a couple of authors recently. Hey, Peter. Uh,
Hello.
who have asked if, hey, can I get a guarantee that my book's going to get published in 12 months? I can't give you that guarantee. And the reason I can't give you that guarantee is because you still have to go through the editing process. And that editing process could take a month, it could take a year, it could take 2 years. And then on top of that is the time that's needed for us to submit the cover and the title itself, the story itself, to the distributor. So we have to take all that into account when before we actually come forward with an actual publication date. So I hope that that makes sense. Um, And now with that, so Peter, how are you doing?
I'm good, real good. How's it going?
Going pretty well. Are you all ready now for the upcoming Thanksgiving festivities?
Fortunately, I'm not really involved in it, in the preparation of it. So, but my in-laws are coming to town, so that's always a good thing. They're really cool people to hang out with. So
Oh,
it should be fun.
cool. That's
Yeah.
nice.
How about
Now,
you?
do you? Oh, I'm just going to um a a restaurant. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah. I was gonna ask, do you do barbecue at home, or like how do you guys handle the Thanksgiving festivities?
Oh, Kathy usually makes the turkey.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, with no grilling. I have had fried turkey once, and it was just amazing.
Really?
Really, my
I
best friend made it one year. And was like, "Oh my god, it's just incredible." Just seals
uh,
all the juices in. Fantastic.
really? Oh my God. All right.
Yeah, it's cool.
I would not have been a better that I would like fried turkey, but now I feel like I have to try it. So,
At least once, yeah.
yeah, totally. Um Dawn McIntyre says, "Hey, Lisa, a friend who's a teacher just told me she thinks that kids should be urged to read what they love rather than the classics. She says once a kid loves to read, the classics can be discovered later. I thought this was wonderful. What are your thoughts?" I don't know, Peter, what do you think?
I agree. If you're forcing a child to read something they're not really interested in, they're not going to they're going to put it down, find some way to be distracted. If they start out with something that they find interesting, compelling, then they graduate. I mean, it makes total sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting. It's funny to me because I remember growing up, I had a lot of friends who like they loved comics books. They hated the classics. And if I look at who among my friends are still readers, it's either people who just happen to really enjoy the classics that they read when they were in school, but it's also more so individuals who were like huge comic book fans or huge romance novel fans,
Mhm.
or and whose parents, that either their parents encouraged them to read it, uh, or they did it on the sly. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. um that's the best way to get people to really kind of discover new stories. So yeah.
Absolutely.
And Caroline Davenport says, great to see you both. Great to see you too. As always, awesome. Oh, and as a heads up, guys, since we were talking about Thanksgiving, we're not going to be here on Thursday next week. Just so you know, I fully expect that Ben won't be here, and Peter better not be here, and my Tushy won't be here. Dawn says, "Really?" Yeah, hey, I figure you guys are all going to be completely full of whatever uh you may have as your primary main course, and you will have absolutely no interest in seeing us on a live stream, so on Thanksgiving. At least I hope not. So yeah. Caroline says, "Good. I hope you're having a great time with family and friends. Thank you so much. I'm planning on just chilling out. So, although in reality, I'm going to be writing quite a bit and doing quite a bit of editing. But hey." CJ Grant says, "The high school I work at has many of the classics in graphic novel format." Oh, that's cool.
That is
So all
cool.
students have a chance to be exposed to the classics. Yeah, that's amazing. I completely love that. Honestly, there are so many fabulous writers who are modern day writers that I don't I think how we define a classic should be kind of like loosely defined. I mean, as long as it's great writing and it's something that the kids can really get into. then phenomenal. So,
I think that pairs up with Dawn's comment too, as well. I mean, putting it in a format that they enjoy, that their imagination can see the beginnings of what's going on with the graphic artists, graphic novels, and then move on and make up the images in their own mind and kind of go from there. And then maybe they get curious, like what's really going on? What's the real story that isn't a graphic novel? It isn't boiled down like that. Kind of like going from a movie to the book. You see what more what the author had in mind.
yeah,
No
absolutely.
filter.
And honestly, that's half the fun of
Mm-hmm.
going to either to see a film that was based on a book or even like a TV show that's based on a book is to kind of go back, read what was originally written and see like, hey, what is this? Like what was it? And kind of fill in the blanks because typically it's a lot more nuanced in the written format than it is in the actual like film or TV show. But
Yeah, they have to streamline because they only have 2 hours. Unless you're Steven Spielberg, you can take as much time as you like. Two examples that come immediately to mind are they're quite disparate, different actually. One is Cormac McCarthy's No Country for Old Men. I saw
mm-hmm.
that movie and it was scary. I mean, it was the scenes were really interesting and the violence was very there. But then I read the book and the book horrified me,
Oh yeah.
scared me like no end. I'm like, holy cow! First of all, he can write. Second of all, they missed 80% of the book, 80% of the description, and the the build up and the tension in the book.
Mm.
They missed it in the movie. And the other one is Dave Eggers' the Circle. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, oh, yeah, ages ago, but yeah.
And I'm like, what's the book say about this? And I swear it was like the book and the movie. They were this one and the same. There wasn't really no difference whatsoever between them.
Mm. And that's really hard to pull off. I mean, yeah, that's very,
Well,
very
Dave's a great
rare.
writer, so.
Well, that's
Mm-hmm,
true. He is quite a great writer.
mm-hmm,
Caroline says, first comes the habit of reading. You know what? It's interesting. I think sometimes it seems like it's a little bit of a chicken and an egg thing. I mean, is it to what Peter was saying, if the author, or rather if the child finds a format that is interesting to the child, then they'll devour it, you know. Um it's really finding that format that that really that format and then like the story types that the kid can really get into. So I don't know. Yeah, it does feel a little bit like a chicken and an egg thing to a certain
mm-hmm.
extent, but yeah, I don't. I have not. Uh, I'm I'm like completely thinking out loud, obviously. Um, yeah, I mean, even a lot of the adults that I know today are actually, there's a big trend in terms of audiobooks. I know a lot of people who are um they're really into audiobooks versus the actual written word. So um but I don't think that's a bad thing. Like I think it's just a different way of ingesting a story, if that makes sense. So
Mm-hmm.
so are you going to have a bunch of people coming out for the holiday? You got your in-laws
Just the
coming?
in-laws. Just they're the only ones local. They're actually in Southwest Florida or in
Oh,
Northeast Florida, so they're coming up, and we go down for Christmas.
oh, smart.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. And then that
Yeah,
way you just sort of trade off who's hosting.
exactly.
Yeah, very nice.
So
That's cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
looking forward to it. Looking forward to the football games too. That's always fun.
I try to use the time as a way to get caught up-ish. I don't know that I'll actually get caught up, but I'm more caught up, I guess, compared to where I am now. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, cool. So anything interesting you encountered lately?
I finished my author's novel, the second revision, which is really
Oh,
cool.
very cool.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. I was really excited to hand it back to him, just because I was really impressed with the changes that he made. Like I was saying before, the changes that he made versus the changes that he did make, it fit together really well. There were
Mm,
still a couple gaps, like his antagonist. He really likes to keep the antagonist off in the wings. Like the antagonist does these things, and he creates this mayhem, but he's this ethereal spirit almost, because you don't see him, you don't hear him, you don't smell him, you don't anything. And I'll keep pushing him like, come on, we need a tint, we need a little glimpse or a smell or something to
yeah.
show, to build this character up, because we see him, well, actually we don't see him one, two, three, four, 5 times before we finally get introduced to him, and then he's a
Oh,
shadowy character in a bar in
okay.
Alaska. So like, there's so much more you could do with this. I mean,
Yeah.
the great beginning writer much is like, oh, I don't want to give away the surprise. I don't want to give away the ending. Well, yeah, you do. Just
Hmm.
don't give it out. Don't give it completely away. You want to
Right.
say, you want to tease it. You're teasing the reader. You're giving them what they need to enjoy the story, and knowing who the bad guy is, or even a glimpse of the bad guy, even a shadow passing by of the bad guy, so you can see his size. Something to clue the reader into what's going on beyond the immediate scene.
Hmm.
So hopefully he'll, and this will be my sixth revision, which is quite a lot for me. Um,
Mm.
but I'm hoping that he takes that advice to heart and actually brings the character out a little bit more, because he's an interesting. I mean, he's truly malevolent, but he's interesting in his own way. And I'd like to hear what's going on from his point of view to a degree,
Yeah.
because that will fill out the story a little bit more.
Yeah. That sounds
But,
great.
so I'm really happy with how that story is turning out.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and my writing's coming along. Since I finished this one book, I'm going to take a little breather, a couple days here, and work on my own stuff. I really want to
As you
finish this
should.
book I've been working on for a couple of years now. I'm sorry,
Uh,
what?
as you should.
Yeah, and then jump right back into the slush pile. I've got a couple possibilities that look pretty interesting. That we'll see if the authors agree to the contract. But yeah,
Mm.
I'm excited to see what's next. To do it, see what book I handle next.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of there's oh, you know what? Let me see how many are I'm still I'm still going through contracts. Um I think I don't we haven't signed everyone. I have a couple of calls in the next like week to answer any kind of questions. Let's see how many are left. And uh, uh, mm. All right, so we have 3 that are still in like major conversation, and we have oops. And that can't be right. 3 major conversation, and how many are and 7 that I sent I've sent the song contracts and they're being considered. So about 10 left from this round.
Great.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm looking forward to getting all that done. Um I'm trying the other major question that I've been getting lately has been around what kind of publicity do we do? So we actually provide to the authors a author questionnaire and a publicity template, which is it's basically an Excel sheet that has multiple tabs to it to kind of help the
Mhm.
author think through all the different kind of publicity and marketing that might be good for their story. And then we also send out to quite a few media and reviewers and bloggers and so on to get additional hype going regarding the story. Um, and one question that I haven't been getting lately, but I'm putting this out there. We actually have noticed that when we send out like newsletters or promotions regarding our titles, if we've got a blurb from a known author, and it doesn't even have to be like a Stephen King, right? Just some kind of blurb talking about the story itself, our click-through rate is insane. We
Really?
get, yeah, it's like it's over 30%
Wow.
of, yeah. So authors, when you're out there, and like that is one question I've gotten quite a bit in the past, has been like, do I really have to get blurbs? Do I really need, reviews? Yeah. um from based on those click-through rates that we're seeing for titles that actually have some kind of a quote or a blurb, it is by far, I mean, it's crazy. 30 over 30% is a crazy and high amount in a good way, obviously.
Mm.
So guys, if when you're out there and you're writing your favorite story and you're sending it out to different publications for potential representation or to be published by that publication, know that uh, it's only to your benefit to start approaching, either friends or authors or instructors or whomever now to see if they would be willing to write a blurb for you, because it really makes a huge difference. So and with that, I'm going to put it out there again. So, hey guys, feel free to go ahead and pop your questions into the comment section of whatever format you may be watching this on, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter. And if you're watching this, by the way, and it is not Thursday between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern time, no big deal. Go ahead and put your comment into the comments section. And because I go back and I check for any kind of questions so that we'll launch the next uh, live stream with your question. Uh, so yeah, so I think, and then I'm from an editorial perspective, I've got I'm finishing up my own manuscript, but I'm also, well, at least a first pass. Um, and I'm also editing several manuscripts as well. So I'm really excited about the stories that we've acquired in the last 6 months, 6 months, year. I think what we're bringing forward are really really phenomenal stories in Running Wild and for Rise. So um, I can't. I'm really looking forward to getting them into readers' hands. So.
How many cover designers do you work with? Just the one, or is there more than one? I mean, just curious.
Just the one. But what we do is go back to the author and ask the author if they have any like concepts or cover ideas that they'd like us to consider. We
Mm-hmm.
pass those off to the our cover designer. He then comes back usually with at least two cover samples, and then we like massage it from there.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah. We used to use several cover designers, and he's just been the most consistent, I guess you could say, in terms of like quality and so on. So yeah, yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
just curious.
Yeah, I mean, now, I mean, maybe as we get larger, we'll bring on additional cover designers, but to date, really, I mean, he's amazing. So, um, the day that his name's Amir, the day Amir comes back to me and says, Lisa, screw off, then I'll go back and start looking at additional cover designers. But so far, he's uh, he's been very positively responsive. So
Great.
yeah. Dawn says everyone loves my cover. I do too. It's amazing what he comes back with, to the point where we've had people who are like, "Has this been published before?" Like, because the cover just looks so it's so eye catching, that people they think they've seen something similar. So yeah, I mean, he really does phenomenal work, and I think it's really it's become it's not like our brand, it's become our brand basically. So
Oh, cool.
Caroline says, as always, I'm curious, as you should be. um, what makes the two of you decide to write about something? What triggers that first interest for you? A person, something said, something someone said? Um, so I'll let Peter cover that first.
Um, it sometimes starts out with things that bother me that I can't quite
Mm,
forget. You know, something like a political situation or a personal situation that sticks with me. Something that I want to explore through literature as well as through to see how close. And this is obviously conjectures. How close to the actual person I can come up with based on the fiction that I'm writing. Like
mm,
I came up with this one story. I drove for Lyft for a couple of months, and this couple got in. I gave this couple this ride, a couple healthy women, and drove them to the hospitals. And like between rides, I would write notes. And when I was writing notes for this, after I dropped both the ladies off, I'm like, what if one of them is not just a serial killer but a cannibal? And she lures her suspects in through just being the best girlfriend that you could possibly be, loving, attentive, caring, attentive kind of thing. And it just
mhm,
kind of blossomed from there. I mean, yes, it's a warped idea, true, but that's kind of how it began. It's just something that just popped into mind, something that worked for that moment.
mhm.
Other books have just been triggered by, or wrote one about, my first book was about Tai Chi, and the
Oh,
effects
cool.
it could be. It was fiction, but what you could do with it, of what I had been learning up to that point, I'm like, let's see what I can discover. And then
Mhm,
there's other stories and whatnot about. So the story I wrote about a friend of mine who passed, and I couldn't forget how he died back in high school, and this
mm,
was 35 years ago. I'm still can remember the funeral, so
mm,
that became a story. It's just the things that stick in your craw that you can't just forget. Because there's just stuff. I mean, granted, there's stuff coming at me, at all of us, all the time. So, a lot of ideas are like, oh well, that sounds pretty interesting. You start writing, you get maybe a page and a half. You're like, this is going nowhere. So you kind of just say, okay, well, move on to the next idea. Not every idea pans out.
mhm.
So it's kind of like sifting for gold. Some of them really work, some of them don't.
Cool.
Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think it answers the question. Um,
What about you?
let's what about me? So uh I grew up writing more like journalism style. So if I'm given an assignment, I'll come up with something. Um I mean, and that's for fiction or nonfiction. So I'm usually better if someone actually they give me it if I'm given a deadline and I'm given parameters. Um, that said, to your point, the stories that I've um, written more recently, I came up with an idea and then I was like, well, what about? And like, what is this like? So, like cures about lycanthropy, right? So
Hmm.
werewolves, shapeshifters.
Right.
And so I was like, well, wait a minute. Let's look up um, the history of shapeshifters in different cultures and um, what is the mythology around it, and and all that kind of thing. And then just kind of like explore, like look for themes, and was there anything commonly done or not done, all that kind of stuff. So um I actually tend to I wouldn't say I get lost in the research, but I really enjoy the research because I enjoy learning and I enjoy
Mhm.
finding out things that I didn't know previously
Right.
and then using it within the story. So yeah. Caroline asks, so when you write, do you two take in trends like a great idea, but would this sell now? Would anyone be interested in it now?
You get this one first.
Do I look at trends? Not really. No, not really. Because honestly, if it's an interesting story, it'll be interesting in my opinion, if it'll be interesting no matter what. Um, so it's more so looking for something that like it hasn't been done yet or it hasn't been done before. That's what I'm typically looking for. I'm not really looking for trends. I'm looking for maybe it's been done, but it hasn't been done like with this slant to it, right?
Right.
Or this take on
Hmm.
whatever it may be. So, because I think it's too you're not playing with fire, but if you're really only going after what's trendy, by the time that you're done writing, especially something that's full length novel, um, by the time you're done actually writing that manuscript and it's done the revision process, you're probably 2 to 3 years out. And then actually getting it into readers' hands is another, um, well, okay, let's say you're 12 months out, right? It's at least another 12 months before it actually gets on the bookshelves. So you're talking right there, that's 2 years, maybe 3 years. 2, 3 years later, who knows if anyone's going to care anymore? So I don't think it's really smart to base it on whatever is trendy in that time period. That said, if you look at things like like there are certain things that people are huge fans of, like different franchises, like Aliens or um Star Wars or Star Trek, then honestly,
Zombies.
yeah, like they're classics at this point, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and so I think those you could probably play with and and write, and you're not at risk of people not wanting to read it, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I kind of look at it as you're kind of chasing the past when you're running for trends because, like you said, you could be at the very least 12 months out, more like 24 to 36,
mm,
before the book actually hits the bookshelves and people buy it. So that trend that was so hot back in 2022, not so much in 2025. That kind of thing.
yep.
Plus, I mean, if you're writing for a trend, um, what is your ultimate goal? I mean, just you want to fit something into something that's already there, like put another cog in the wheel that's already spinning. I mean, I look more of like, let's see what I want to explore. Like I said, I wrote that book about Tai Chi. I mean, and nothing was being done with it at the time around me. Just like what I explored that to see what I could get out of it, not just what I could give to other people, because I learned a ton just writing it from research and everything like that. But I tend to stay away from trends. I don't want to chase the past.
No. And it's interesting too because like I hear authors talk about, like, oh, well, like young adult isn't it's not as popular as anymore. And then like, the next month I hear a bunch of authors talking about how young adult novels are now hot again. If you're trying to chase that month to month, I don't know how there's no way you're staying on top of it, right? I don't know how anyone can actually predict what's going to be like a super hot novel or a super hot, story, honestly. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think chasing trends is a smart play, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Plus, there's a whole plethora of different of books being written. Just judging by the books that get sent into to Running Wild, I mean, there's
Hmm.
no really trend going on there. So it's just basically what the author thinks, what the author wants to really write about, because it is a commitment. I mean, it's not something you're going to do 15 minutes a day like learning how to play guitar. It's something that you want to commit to hours and hours and hours of being by yourself and your characters. So it's something you really want to believe in.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So, um, I'm thinking, uh, honestly, I don't know that we would find, oh, I don't know that people who are writing based on trends, would submit to Running Wild or Rise. Like, I don't think our brands are, um, lean toward that, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think we really attract people who are writing based on whatever's hot in the moment. Based on what we've seen in terms of submissions, I think we really more so we attract a lot of people, like, they're really passionate about a story, or they're passionate about a topic. Um, we've actually gotten a lot of instructors, believe it or not, uh, over the years. So like creative writing instructors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we get a lot of short story collections. We get a lot of memoirs. Um, Caroline asks, do either of you worry that something you have written is dated after you finish it, even if it wasn't a trend that you followed? No.
No, I mean, like I said, the commitment that is required to finish it. I mean, even a short story or a novel, something that you're putting yourself into, that if the trend kind of, or if it rises up and pops up, the trend, and it passes you, well, then fine. Then nobody's writing about it when my book comes out. It's all by itself. So, and people have that trend in their memory, so they want to see, oh, what's new? What's different about this book? And that being said, I mean, there are thousands and millions of books written all every year, and just thousands get printed and thousands don't. So I just don't limit yourself. Just write what you enjoy. You know,
Yeah. And it
trend.
goes back to that, like, not writing to a trend. I mean, I'm not writing in slang. I'm not writing from a point of view that would be, like from a point of view of a hippie, or something like that, right? So something that
Mm-hmm.
is going to you're by how you are defining the narrative, and how you defining your the approach you're taking to the story itself. You're dating it, right? Like, I actually don't I intentionally don't do that, if that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus, I know that some authors, are intentionally go uh, approaching things from a very specific point of view, that is immediately going to be dated, and that's great. Again, though, it's just depends on how you want to approach it. Um, so,
Right. And even, I mean, many classics are dated.
oh yeah,
1984, Fahrenheit 451. You go on Gatsby, Great Gatsby. But so those are in their time, and they're a brilliant exposition of what that time was actually like. So
Mm-hmm.
you get a feel for it, what was happening then. Is it still current? No. But is it still interesting? Is it still enlightening? Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you want to live right with the common, jeez, right with the present. Sometimes you don't. I mean, it's something that I think the book should that the artistic endeavor should dictate for you, not based on not a mental decision.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree with that.
Oh, good.
Absolutely.
I was hoping that these were making sense to you, Carolyn.
Yeah, sometimes, as you can tell, we're basically making stuff up off the top of our butts. So, hope I'm glad that yeah, I agree. I'm glad our responses are making at least some kind of sense in some capacity. So,
So, can I do a little promotion here?
of course.
One of my former instructors, great guy, great writer. He's got a book on writing fiction that's coming out. I just pre-ordered my copy today. The teacher's name is David Jauss,
Mhm.
Jauss, David Jauss, and
Okay,
his book
cool.
is called "Alone with All That Could Happen" on writing fiction. It's
Hmm.
about what he's learned from teaching fiction and writing fiction, and it's going to be a brilliant book. So I don't really get self-help books on writing because of all the classes I've been through, and I just everybody's got a different take on it. But Dave gets it, so I'm really curious to see what he has to say.
What was it called again? Alone with.
Alone with All That Could Happen on writing fiction, coming out from Press 53.
I'm looking up a link to it so that we can include that so folks can pick it up. Let's see.
And as far as blurbs goes, he's got blurbs in there. One from one of his peers, a teacher at the college. Another one from one of his former students, who was the became the editor of a online magazine, and still
Oh,
is publishing. So doesn't
cool.
matter who the blurbs are. The blurbs just tease the reader and give you insight more so than the back copy.
That's true. All right. And from his website, he actually provides a link to Amazon. So I just provided a link to it. This is showing, though, that it's out July 8th, 2008. That can't be
Eight?
right.
That can't be right. You're on Press 53's website?
No, let me get on that. Press 53. Okay.
Yeah. Press53.com is the first story on the top on the left.
Got it. Okay. Let's use this. Cool. Yeah, definitely check that out.
Cool.
And it's available in soft cover and hardcover. So that's pretty cool. Was he one of your favorite instructors?
Yeah. Yeah. It was in his workshop towards the end of my MFA, and when things were really gelling, and he just sewed everything together in such a way that really springboard into post collegiate life. It's really cool.
No, awesome. That's great.
He's just down to earth, talks slow, make sure that you understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Very introspective. Just a great guy. Somebody cool to hang around.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm definitely picking it up. So, looking forward to it. Oh, and now I can't remember if we mentioned this last time, but we are actually going to be at LA Comic Con on December 4th. We're going to be teaching two different panels. One panel is on branding, like author branding, and the other panel is on the process of writing and getting your book to publication. So we're actually going to have a, a a bunch of our authors and editors will be on the panel, as well as basically like friends of our houses. So that'll be a lot of fun. if you're in the LA area, definitely check it out. I'm really looking forward to it. I was pleasantly surprised when they accepted our panel suggestions. So, Caroline asks, what's coming up for conferences or groups that you two are looking forward to doing? So we've got LA Comic Con. I don't know. I think that's the one big thing right now. Next year, I'm not sure about what we've got going on in 2023 because right now is one of the like there are different what I like to call magic periods where um, like conferences are figuring out what they want to do in terms of speakers. And right now, there's a bunch of conferences that they're figuring out what their agendas are. So um, I am actually going to be speaking in San Diego at a writers conference, but I'll have more information on that in a little bit. Um, I think that one's going to be in like June, something like that. Caroline asks, any Zoom? Always Zoom. And by the way, if you guys have any ideas on different panels that you'd like to see us conduct or workshops us to conduct through Zoom, yeah, just ping me. Like, let me know because we've got really generous editors like Peter who would be phenomenal in a online workshop. So yeah, definitely. If there's something that you're interested in, let me know. So Peter, how about you? Do you have any conferences or groups that are set
Uh,
up so far?
Currently, I'm laying low, so just staying out of the spotlight for now. Hunkered down.
Nice.
Mhm.
Smart too. It can be easy to get caught up in all the workshops and panels and
Mhm.
conferences and all that. So it's good to kind of take a step back. Definitely. So how far away do you think you are from finishing your novel?
It's a good question. The first draft is written. Actually, the second draft is written. I just have to go
Oh,
back
wow.
and just tie it all together. One of my biggest things, and any author that I've edited will state this is true, is that images are very important to me in a story, and I need to go back. I've got the plot line of the narrative lined out from beginning to end. I just need to put the color into the story, color into the scenes, images in the scenes, so that I can play with that as rolling images throughout the book. So I need to add the color and scenery and just character details. So just taking time.
Nice. That sounds
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
I mean, I was hoping to be done by Christmas last year. I'm hoping to be done by Christmas this year.
Well,
But
it sounds like you're on track for that. So,
hoping,
uh,
I'm hoping.
yeah, I'm hoping you give us a first shot at it. So, um,
Absolutely.
uh,
See what you guys think. I mean,
oh, give me a break. There's like a there are certain authors that I I absolutely adore. You're absolutely one of them. So, I can't wait to check it out. Caroline says, "Takes time, Peter. Takes time. It does. It's funny. Like I can knock out in a day over 4,000 words, but man, the next day I am just tired. It's
I
like
used to have a
using it
daily
all.
quota or a nightly quota of 1,000 words, and
Oh,
I would hit that night after night after night. And that was before I had any training, any formal education on it. So it's real easy to hit 1,000 words when you don't really know what you're doing,
hmm
kind of thing. But when you start learning, that's when you start thinking. That's when you start bollocking your writing up because you're like, how is this gonna? Well, I said this before. How is something on page 5 going to matter on page 75? It's like, no. Just write the story, figure it out as you go along. That's
hmm
why the narrative is so thin right now for the book that I'm writing, um, because I'm going back and now I can play with it. Now I know how the story lays out, who does what what parts are
Mm.
funny, what parts are scary, and now I get to have fun. So.
Well, and honestly, that's why having an outline, even if it's just like bullets, right,
Hmm.
is so, uh, well, for me, critical because as I'm writing it, I'm changing the narrative and I need to reflect it in the actual outline, so that I then can know, like, oh, yeah, I have to go back and tie this back. Because that first run is really just like getting words on a page, right? And
Hmm.
then
Yeah.
the second version is typically where you're tying things together a bit more, and then the third one's really where it's really kind of rounding things out. At least for me. So,
Right. My problem with outlines is that I put instead of putting markers for the plot line to the story,
mhm.
I go crazy with details. So I just
uh,
meander off topic. One time I wrote an outline. I taped a big piece of paper, like 4x6, to a wall, and did a linear outline on it with all the different plot points, all the ups and downs of the narrative. And I kept going. I had to put another sheet of paper, another sheet of paper next to that because it kept going, kept going. So I ended up following it, but it was just very, very complex and convoluted.
got it. Yeah. Now mine are tend to be pretty high level, so arguably almost too high level, because it's like someone will read the outline and they're like, "How's this all going to tie together?" And I'm like, "Don't worry about it. It'll happen." So,
Cool.
CJ asks, "How important is it to have an author newsletter and a mailing list? Is a monthly newsletter needed, or is quarterly enough?" I don't know. What do you think?
I'd say if you have enough people that are reading your newsletter, keep sending it out. I mean, keep coming up with things to write about because that way you're staying foremost on their mind, and they're curious to see what you're going to write next. What are you going to send them next?
Yeah,
Plus, you've got
no,
a built-in base of readers that when your book comes out, you've got that the people that you've been writing to all along.
I completely agree. And
Hmm.
remember, it's your author newsletter, and it's your mailing list. It doesn't have to be about the novel that you're writing, right? It can be about whatever you want it to be. It's really should be about the brand of you,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So, and what you think your fans would be most interested in. So, but yeah, I agree. If you've got people who are interested, where they're signed up for a newsletter and they want to know what's going on with you and your writing, and whatever the case may be, that's amazing. Because the click-through rate for newsletters in general is something ridiculously low. Like, I think the average is like 5% or something crazy like that.
Really.
So if you've got people who actively want to open your newsletter and want to know what's going on, with you and your writing, or whatever it is that you're writing about, then that's phenomenal. You know,
Yeah.
um, the how important is it? Um, I'm gonna go back to my default question of, it depends on what your goals are, right? So, if your goal is to sell, hundreds of thousands of books, then building that fan base is going to be pretty important, because a lot of the sales are going to be repeat readers, right? Typically speaking. So, you want to have that newsletter, you want to have that mailing list, you want to send it out on a regular basis, you want to have a regular cadence, you want to, I guess you could say, like, set expectations of those who do read the newsletter, so that you know you've set the expectation that they're going to get a specific quality of newsletter with specific types of topics that you're going to cover, and so on. um, if you don't care about sales and you don't care about having a fan base, then it doesn't matter.
True.
And you, with that in mind, though, think about how you want to publish your work, and do you want to go to a major house? Do you want to go to a small publisher, right? Really approach those who are aligned with whatever it is that your goals are, um, just so that you're not, setting false expectations or, anything like that as well. So,
Do you think an author has more input with a small press than they do with a major publishing house?
oh yeah, especially if you don't really have a big fan base.
Mm-hmm.
I with um at least from my understanding from talking to friends and networking with other authors and publishers, the bigger has a lot of it's going to be dependent on, do you have a how big is your fan base, right? How big are your sales? Oftentimes that's going to have a decent amount to do with um how much you have, what how much input you're allowed, basically.
Right.
Versus small houses, I think a lot of times with the smaller or mid-sized houses, because at least that I've seen, usually, the editors are editing the works not necessarily because um it's not because it's assigned to them. A lot of times it's because that editor really loves that work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, with that in mind, that editor is typically then also looking for, okay, what can I do, with how can I work with this author, right? What can I do to really make this writing shine? And I think a lot of times, the editors are more, like, they ask more questions, right? Like, why is this character doing this? Why is this character doing that? Why do you have this segment? Things
Mm-hmm.
like that. Um, and to kind of help, not understand, not kind of to understand why the author did what they did, and then also, by understanding that why, the editor can then help bring that forward, if that makes sense. So,
Mm-hmm. Cool.
mm. But yeah, I mean, again, just generally speaking, I think it's true that and I think it's also true, you tend to, I think a lot of authors um will look for publishing houses that they can have long-term relationships with. And so, and then they, will have that ongoing dialogue with whoever the editors are that they choose to work with. So,
Right. Hmm.
how about you? Like, what have you seen? Um,
um, well, I have no experience with large publishing houses. I just think that you have more input because it's more personal, it's more one-on-one as opposed to like a dear friend of mine got picked up by a publisher. Her book did very well, but she walked into a room expecting to see a marketing person, a press person, and that's about it, and her
mm,
agent. And she walked into the room, and there were 15 people in there, all
wow.
behind. They're going to be behind the publication and marketing of her book, and it did really well. I mean, because the writing was really good, topic
Mhm,
was really interesting, but she had this huge team to help her out with the whole marketing and publication of it. So, unfortunately, a smaller house like us, we can't offer that because we just don't have the manpower, we just don't have the resources. But you get more here of one thing than you get over there because maybe you don't get the group of 15 people helping
mm,
you out. You just get one or two plus an agent and they say, well, go out and do something. Okay. Then you get no support. So I don't know. I prefer a smaller house, at least for now.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially if you want to make sure that whoever it is that you're working with actually believes in your work, I think
Right.
it's a higher likelihood if it's a small press, that they really believe in the story. So,
Yeah. I think we're looking more for art, or at least I'm looking more for art instead of money. So
right.
I'm not looking for popularity or anything like that. I just want the book to be as best as it can be. Sometimes I'll argue with the author. Sometimes I win. Sometimes I don't.
Well, that's true for all of us.
Yep.
And it's fine, right? You
Yep.
know, it's you got to have that dialogue. So,
Yep.
um cool. All right. Well, wow, it's already been an hour. So thank you, Caroline. Thank you, CJ. Thank you, everyone,
Yes.
uh,
Thanks.
for all the great questions. As always, guys, thank you so much, Dawn. Again, it's fabulous to see you again. And if you are watching this, then we look forward to chatting with you. Not Thanksgiving week, the week after. So have a fantastic holiday, and we will talk to you guys soon. Ciao.
See you guys.